Welcome, everyone. My name is Brad Trimble. I'm the Director of Learning and Strategy for the RP Group. I'm very excited to have all of you here today. We're going to be showcasing some excellent work here occurring in our field with the 2024 Outstanding Project of the Year Award, which was awarded to Norco College. So very excited to be joined by our two representatives from Norco College who were involved with this important work. So at this point, I'd like to go ahead and turn it over to them. Welcome.
Well, thank you, Brad. Appreciate that. All right. Well, welcome everyone to our presentation, Faculty Impact on Black Student Success. My name is Greg Acock, and I'm the Dean of Institutional Effectiveness at Norco College. And this is Caitlin Busso, and she is our one and only research analyst, of course, at Norco. Between the two of us, Caitlin and I handle all of the research functions for the college, so we have our hands full. What we're wanting to do today in our presentation, we want to focus on the evolution of our research, starting with an exploration of data. I was just honestly playing with data, to creating an increasingly more contextualized and comprehensive predictive model for Black student success. In essence, we wanted to walk you through our thought process regarding the research, so that you can, kind of understand where we're coming from and maybe where we're going. So that's our idea for today. And I believe now I'm handing this over to Caitlin to take over for a few slides.
All right, so kind of chunked this into three parts. So the who and the why, our initial analysis, and the advisory group we put together. And then part three is really about the faculty inquiry group. So getting the feedback there, creating and administering a faculty impact survey, and then another analysis. So Greg kind of alluded to like all these layers of analysis and exploration. So just looking at that timeline at the bottom, it started way back in spring 2020. And an initial local data exploration based on, Greg will go into the next, I think in two more slides, the statewide call to action, and then getting input at different points in time. And you'll see there's, I think, 4 total points of analysis along the way. And now we're kind of at the point where we want to share and collaborate and expand this work. Next slide, please. So some outcomes from this presentation, just that participants will understand the models used for faculty impact on Black student success, and participants can evaluate whether the faculty impact survey and analysis of the model are applicable at their college.
All right, so it's back to me. So what initiated this whole thing? So I can still remember sitting in the statewide call to action meeting back in spring 2020, probably several of you were in that as well, where the following statement was made. We know Black students do better when they see someone teaching who looks like them. And I remember thinking, wow, I don't know that about Black students at Norco, and we have the data to find that out. So I pulled enrollment from our MIS files between fall of 2017 and winter of 2020, so about a 2.5-year period, and began looking into any patterns of success I could find. One note there, of course, that was right before we went to remote. In fact, I think when I pulled these data, we were in remote, but these data don't contain any of the enrollments of when we were, completely on that in remote coursework, when we had the pandemic. But just the data yielded 8,605 valid enrollments for 2,093 Black students during this 2.5-year period. So that was basically our starting point. And I began this exploration by first doing an ANOVA, comparing success rates of Black students by faculty ethnicity categories. And it's a little different way of thinking about it, but this was sort of the way we could see if Black students were actually doing better with Black faculty than others. And in this first ANOVA, it appeared that Black faculty had significant higher success rates. You can see that our Asian faculty, our Hispanic faculty, our faculty of 2 or more races, and our white faculty, Black faculty, were all significantly higher than any of those faculty members with Black students. So you'd think, okay, end of story, right? That's it. So we've got our question, but then that social science voice in the back of my head started going, but what if there are other reasons that might explain that difference, you know? And I'm sure many of you have that little voice in the back of your head that doesn't let you sleep at night sometimes. But given the data I had at the time, I primarily explored 3 different elements. So I looked at the percentage of science and math courses taken, the percentage of Umoja courses, Umoja being the African American advocacy program with students, and also looking at full-time, part-time status. So what I did, and I really don't have an explanation for why I did this, but this is what I did. I just started physically removing those types of courses from this data set. So, you know, for instance, I would remove the math and science courses and do a t-test, because I ended up figuring, you know what, I'm really looking at how do our Black faculty success rates with Black students compared to all others. So that's what it ended up being. And though this isn't the most research savvy approach, it resulted in me actually becoming really familiar with aspects of the data that I wouldn't have seen through other approaches like multiple regression. You know, for instance, I found out that our Asian faculty taught a far greater proportion of math and science courses to Black students, which was at about 63.6%, compared to Black faculty, which taught 5% of math and science courses to Black students. So I didn't know if that might be a systematic, you know, difference among ethnicity categories that might be influencing the outcome, the Black student success rates. So when the other thing that we looked at that was interesting is that also Black student, when we were looking at only Black student enrollments, only 4.7% of them were in Umoja courses. And I think we had this inflated sense of how many of our Black students actually take our Umoja courses. So that was an eye-opener for us. So after exploring the data, kind of doing some ANOVA, doing this physical removal, here is a summary of the t-test results, with Black faculty having significantly higher success rates in all conditions, except when only looking at part-time faculty. Though I really enjoyed my time doing this and pulling out these different elements, I couldn't, though, still shake this gnawing sense that I didn't know is it the faculty, you know, or is it the ethnicity that is the predictor, or was it these other things? Because even when I physically would pull out one condition, all the other influences were left in there, you know, so it was sort of not the best approach, I thought. So I still had this sense of like, I don't think I have an answer to my question. But what I decided to do is just we hit this part 2 where I thought, let me write up the initial findings. I sent it to my vice president of planning and development at the time, and also to the college president. who I think is actually in attendance today. Welcome, Dr. Green. um, After reading the summary, our president convened an advisory group where I presented what had been discovered, and also was asking for feedback because, and this will be a recurring theme, is that we couldn't have done this in a bubble. We really needed input from others to help us get a take on what some of the results were. So this group of people, this is just the positions. We're representing different constituencies and backgrounds. They were essential in helping with this direction and guidance on factors to consider, input on like, how do we apply these findings, that we were seeing, and how to implement the findings, because that was like, how do we get the word out, and how do we figure out who needs to be in the conversation. So some examples of areas where the advisory group was really instrumental was some of the suggestions they made, and one was to look at the intersection of gender with Black students and Black faculty, and it was just real, so I did it, and here's what I found. It showed a huge disparity, which I didn't know existed, for Black male students between Black male faculty and Black female faculty. And this actually helped us locate, this is really where the success pocket was. The other areas, when you looked at Black female, as you can see there, Black female students, comparing Black male faculty and Black female faculty, there wasn't a significant difference in the success rates, whereas there was definitely was present with Black male students. And then as you look at total, that pretty much accounted for the significant difference between Black male faculty and Black female faculty. It was all in the Black male students. So this was, very interesting. The other suggestion made in this advisory group was by one of the faculty members who was also an experimental psychologist. I was really happy to have her there. She suggested that we run a regression on the factors, and that just kind of confirmed that gnawing sense of like, yeah, we really don't know what's predicting, the success in courses without having some sort of controls and some more sophisticated approaches. So that was really helpful advice. So we created a predictive model assimilating all of the variables that we had been manipulating, that I had sort of physically played around with, to put it candidly. And we created a file of all the students, all Black students, with a percentage of each variable calculated. So we looked at the percentage of enrollments in Umoja, and that was an independent variable. We looked at the percentage of enrollments in math and science courses, percentage of enrollments with full-time faculty, and then the percentage of enrollments with Black faculty, with white faculty, and we did that with every student, and it ended up being 9 independent variables, with the dependent variable being course success rate, Black student course success rate, for each individual student. The results, as you can see there, is that we did find some predictors, some significant predictors. Math and science had a positive relationship with Black student success, and the percentage of full-time faculty had an inverse relationship with Black student success. Before we go into anything there's a big but coming, but the R squared of the model fits. So basically the amount of variance that was accounted for by this entire model was 0.017, so less than 2% of all the variance in Black student success was accounted for by this model. So we didn't like that. We didn't like that we weren't accounting for over 98% of the variance of Black student success. So we took a moment to regroup with our conclusions at this point. And they were definitely preliminary, and we still would say they are preliminary. But what we did see when we got to more sophisticated analysis is that Black or that faculty ethnicity did not have a significant impact on Black student success. The other conclusion that we could not get away from was that methods matter. That the t-test approach, I mean, just clearly led us to one conclusion, whereas the regression, which was probably would have been a better place for us to start, led us to another conclusion. So that was one of the big takeaways that you'll see over and over as we looked, as we started with this initial phase of analysis. Okay, so now that we were back to square one, basically, it was time to come up with a new plan of action. So what we did is we went back to the data and looked at Black student success by individual faculty member. We then selected all of this. I need to put a little caveat, was very, very confidential. This was not shared anywhere except within our office. So, of course, but I just wanted to make sure that that was clear. We selected then the top faculty by success rate, and then we came up with a list of our top faculty, which in Black student success. So we kind of switched the way we were looking at things. And that cutoff, just so you know, was at 72% or higher. 72% success rate with Black students ended up being the cutoff to where our top performing faculty were. When we looked at these faculty, it was really interesting because they were distributed pretty much representatively to how the ethnicity was for our faculty. It was distributed pretty close to the same. It was distributed across departments. It wasn't located in either one or just a few departments. It was across all departments. And it also was distributed across like full-time and part-time status. So that was interesting to see. And it was helpful to know that, you know, who was in this group from a demographic perspective. The next step we needed to do, and you can see that it's, we did actually do this in spring of 22, that we needed to convene these faculty. Once we now knew who they were, we wanted to convene these faculty, and we did contact them very confidentially to see if they wanted to be part of a group that would just share these best practices that we first had to let them know. They didn't know that they had these high success rates with Black students necessarily. Let them know that and say, we want you to share what you think might be influencing that success rate. So we were asking them to share their practices. The next step in our new plan of action was to, that based on the feedback we got from them, we would create a survey tool that would assess the frequency and importance of these practices. But that would be sent out actually to all faculty. That survey would go to all faculty. And the way we would validate those responses, because we don't know if what people think works with students actually does work with students. So the way we would validate that is that then we would take the responses to the faculty impact survey and connect them to their Black students and see which ones actually seem to correlate with Black student success. Okay, I think that's sort of the approach that we decided to take. So I believe now Caitlin is going to walk us through what happened in implementing this new plan of action. So over to you, Caitlin.
Thank you. First, we're going to do a little exercise disclaimer. This is what we did at the conference during our presentation. It might be clunky over Zoom, but I just put a document into a link into the chat. If you can pull it up, let me know if you have problems accessing it. But basically, it's just a handout we used in the presentation that actually listed out all these factors that you'll hear in a minute, are going to use for these predictive models. So what Greg was just talking about, the faculty ethnicity, so using that proportion measure, math and science, faculty status, and then all 30 of those faculty impact survey items. And I know we haven't fully told you everything you need to know, but we just wanted you to look at it and maybe just take a guess. Just take a guess which factors you think are going to be predictive, positive or negative, on Black student success. How many of them you think are going to be predictors. If you want, you can throw it in the chat. Say I picked 10, or I picked 5, or I picked 0. Just take like 30 seconds and glance over it so you can kind of get a sense of what's being entered into this predictive model, and then maybe just some guesses on what you think will be predictive. So just like 30 seconds. We won't be in silence too long. All right, so keep this in mind when we come back to these predictive models that Greg goes into later. But these are all the factors. You have them in front of you now. So just now going into part 3, looking at actually the faculty inquiry groups we were talking about, the actual faculty impact survey, which now you have the 30 items available to you, and then the different analysis. Next slide. All right. So again, talking about in spring 22, getting together these faculty leaders. So there were really 3 areas of focus that were explored. The human side, so some examples were faculty bringing in their personal and family experiences and some professional training. There's a whole bunch of different examples, but I'm just going to give a few. So then what's happening in the classroom? Faculty brought up flexibility for students and actually getting feedback from students. And then looking at resources, so providing access to textbooks and resources, individualized help to students, and using OER, open educational resources, in the classroom. So this led to the creation of the 30-item survey, which I just shared with you, based on these faculty group discussions of what they said is important. Another little key factor is really stressing the importance of the alignment between the survey and the practice in class. So kind of not what they want to do in class, but their actual actions in the classroom. So little caveat, like Greg said, we felt comfortable identifying these top performing faculty. We felt comfortable being able to stress this alignment of not what you want to do, but what you are doing, because we do have a very trusting relationship with our faculty at this college. We have a good college culture, and they know we're going to keep anything we need to confidential. They really trust us and know that we can work together to get this work done. Next slide. So the first administration of the survey was in fall 2022. It was sent to our all faculty listserv, which includes full and part-time faculty. We had 59 people respond. It's about an 18% response rate. So when we then connected that directly to their actual student enrollments of these 59 faculty, it was matched to about 5,800 enrollments, 4,500 individual students. And then when we focused just on Black students and enrollments, it was 236 students and 271 enrollments. We also have I didn't put it on here, but the fall 23 administration had very, very similar response rate, very similar enrollment counts. And just looking on the right, our college population is that darker bar, college faculty population percents versus who responded. Slight overrepresentation from white faculty and slight under from Asian and Hispanic faculty, but pretty close to our college faculty population with the responses. Next slide. It's back to you, Greg.
All right. All right, so just so you know, we're planning on doing questions at the end, so please do hold on to your questions. We really want to hear them. But we're wanting to present everything here and then have a processing time at the end. So after getting the data from the fall 2022, I'm just going to call it the FIS instead of always the Faculty Impact Survey. We decided to see if factor analysis pointed us, first of all, did it point us to sort of larger areas that might be predictive of Black student success? And also we were concerned with the idea, or what we wanted to do is to minimize multicollinearity, which, I think most of you out there know what that is, but just in case, that's where we have in the independent variables, the predictors, correlating real highly with each other. You want to try to avoid that, and factor analysis really makes it so you don't have that as much. And so we did do a factor analysis, and we found 3 factors, and we named them based on the items that came into those factors, of caring environment, intentional assignments, and grading. And we were really excited about that, but here's no one of those buts. Model was not even significant. It was not the whole model was not a significant predictive model. The variables didn't show any ability to predict Black student success. So we kind of had to scrap it. I actually want to go back to it as we get more and more data, but for now it just didn't show it was a very good model. So what we did is proceeded with the original variables in the model. We always, just so you know, we always kept in the faculty ethnicity, because that was really sort of what got this whole study going. Faculty ethnicity, math and science, and then percentage of math and science, full-time, part-time. And then we, for this next model, we entered all of the 30 of the FIS items in individually to the predictive model. And this is what you see below is what resulted as significant predictors for Black student success. The first one was I set high expectations for all students in my class, which had an inverse relationship with Black student success. It just meaning, and I won't keep saying this, but meaning that as the faculty agreement with that statement increased, Black student success decreased. The second predictor was it is important that students show accountability in my classroom, which had a positive relationship with Black student success. Again, that meaning that as this agreement with this statement increased, Black student success also increased. One positive of this model was that it had an R² of 0.203, which means that it was just the power of this thing went up 10 times, over 10 times what that original model had in terms of being able to predict Black student success. The other thing is, because as I looked at these predictors, I almost felt like they were getting at the same thing, but we got some help. This is where we went to people and asked for help in interpreting. And we went to the academic senate. We also had some individual conversations with faculty that said, hey, I think I know what this means. And what we got is that this really centered around giving the student agency. That what their interpretation of this was that the first statement is focused on the faculty's expectations, whereas the second statement is focused on the student themselves showing accountability but it gives them agency in doing so. So that was just some of the feedback we got from faculty about like how this made sense to them, which was actually very helpful in us starting to create a framework that makes it more meaningful. All right, so then in fall of 2023, so just last semester, we administered the FIS again. And like Caitlin said, we had similar response rates. The enrollment counts when we connected Black students to these responses, so we could, again, do some validation. We got, everything was pretty similar. It looked pretty much the same. We didn't see any big differences, but we got a really different set of predictors on this one. So we found 4 that were predictors. First one is I have pursued training on issues related to anti-racism, equity, diversity, and inclusion, which had a positive relationship, was a positive predictor. The second predictor was, it is important to celebrate students and connect on a personal level. That had an inverse relationship with Black student success. The third one was, I incorporate service learning or internship-like experiences in my classes. That had an inverse relationship with Black student success. And then the last predictor on this, it's the same model actually, but just a different set of data, was that I play music either before or during class to set a welcoming environment, which did have a positive relationship with Black student success. The R-squared for the model fit, meaning how much variance or how much impact was this accounting for on Black student success, was 0.183, which was 18.3%, which was a little lower than the fall 2022 regression, but it wasn't too much lower. For our final model, we then decided we're going to just combine everything together, kind of get more power, with more data, which then, produced only one item and different from everything else, which was, I strive to be welcoming to all students in my classes, which had a positive relationship with Black student success. The R-squared for the model fit on this one actually went down, but we just want to be out there about it, and that it went down to 11.3%. But we felt a little more confident since these predictors emerged from that multiple terms of data. So we're wondering, we're going to keep looking at it. We're wondering if this is going to start, circling around onto repeat predictors over time, so we feel a little bit more confident about what might be happening with a larger data set. I don't know what happened there. Okay. All right. So far, what have we learned? Because we really feel like a lot of things are preliminary. We don't. We feel like we have a ways to go. So we don't feel like we know anything with real clear confidence, but we're starting to circle around a few things. So here's some of the things. First off, there's a lot more that we don't know than we do know. It seems to be sort of what we feel like. What was our experience in doing this study for the past 4 years? However, from the initial model to the model incorporating the FIS models. Oh wait, let me back it up. The first bullet was really, I think we're getting at something about what faculty are doing. When we include the faculty and what they're doing in the classroom, we get a big increase in getting an insight into what's impacting Black student success. So, one of the big things is we got to look at what faculty are doing, not just sort of characteristics about faculty or characteristics about courses that sort of don't change a whole lot, or that, we don't have a whole lot of influence over. But we think it has something to do with, like, so giving students agency seemed to be something. Getting trained in equity, diversity, inclusion, that seemed to have a positive impact. And then also, two of the predictors seem to focus in around providing a welcoming environment. So those are some of the things we feel like we're going to keep our eye on as ideas about predictors. Then, like I was saying, from the initial model to where we're actually looking at what's going on in the classroom, huge increase in power. We could predict a whole lot more. We feel more confident when we include faculty's either approach or behavior or grading or whatever it was that we were looking at. The next thing we learned was that we couldn't have done this alone. I mentioned that before, but I don't want to mention it again. If we hadn't had the advisory group, the faculty inquiry group, which was where we got these best practices, and then even after that, the cooperation of faculty and administrators, this whole process, whether it be giving us feedback on what they, obviously taking the FIS, putting, having, at our college, an 18% response rate isn't actually really horrible. It was not bad. We just felt like it's part of this process was realizing to do good research, we can't just do it in the IR department. We have to pull in the faculty, all the people that are involved that are kind of touched by this research. And so we couldn't do this alone. And then another thing that came up multiple times, and again, I've mentioned it before, but I'm going to mention it again, is that method matters. We were taken by surprise at how greatly the outcome was affected when we shifted our methods, or even one thing we looked at is even how we treat missing data, whether it was pairwise or listwise, made a big difference on even the predictors, which was kind of blew our mind. We did not know that it would have that big of an influence. And again, obviously, if we'd ended like with that ANOVA or the t-test approach, our conclusions would have been very different than what we found from our regression and the predictive model. And then just, again, like moving from one semester to the next, we did not expect, again, taken by surprise sort of seemed to be the theme in this, that how the predictors changed just based on the semester was really a surprise to us. So, and then Caitlin, I think it's yours now. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just gonna also touch on the method matters. Greg and I really had to reach back into our skill set and our knowledge and really get into these deep dives. Like he mentioned, the dealing with missing data, pairwise, listwise. Why are they different? What makes more sense? Multicollinearity and tolerance. What are those things? How do we need to address them? So a lot of deep dives into our grad school research knowledge that we both haven't used in a while. So it really took some time and patience to get to this point. But just thinking through our unique contribution as researchers within our institutions, this is an issue that is obviously important to our colleges, important to the state from that meeting way back in 2020. So really knowing that we have a unique skill set and knowledge base to contribute as researchers. And part of this conversation turned into like I don't know the right word for it, but just knowing that with most of us having small offices, most of us having an increasing variety of job duties and skill sets and things we need to do, it's very difficult to commit the time, the effort to this kind of work. Like you can see at many points, Greg was like, okay, we hit this point and now, okay, are we done? Like, oh, but there's something else going on and we really need to kind of dig deeper to know what we can do to make change at our institutions. So just having the commitment to put the time and energy into this. And earlier on in my career, I probably wouldn't have understood that, but I think knowing that, if especially having the support of your college and the people around you to do this work and really make time and space for it. And also we would love to collaborate with other colleges, with the region, with the state, to really get some more power behind this, to kind of make sense of like why every time we do this we're getting slightly different predictors, and get some strength behind the themes and what we can do moving forward. I think next slide is questions.
Want me to go to the next one, just so people have the,
Yeah, and I'll put it in the chat. Just the Google Drive has different resources like the handout, the PowerPoint, and I think Greg put all his syntax in there and our contact information.
and while you're, unless there's anybody with any questions, just sort of reiterating, it's sort of like, being able to respond to that call to action with research. I think that's our unique space. That's our unique place, as researchers. It's like, we can do this, this is how we respond to that call to action. And I'm just going to reiterate, if we have tried to make it as easy as possible. We spent 4 years figuring this stuff out so that we could just give you the syntax. If anybody's interested in replicating, and we could create maybe something as a region, as a state, or just as multiple colleges maybe that are interested, we would love to partner with you. We can even do the analysis, or you've got the syntax if you want to do it. We would just be, I really want to respond to this call with a data-based, objective, like, here's what actually might be working. I think that would be really a special way that researchers could respond to that. So.
Hi, Cynthia.
So I just wanted to start off by saying this is so exciting to listen to and learn from. I'm so impressed with like the methods and how you went back and did factor analysis and then tried ANOVA. So hats off to you for sticking with this project on such a very important topic. I want to make sure that I get the key takeaways because, I want to go back and talk to folks at my institution. So I'm going to tell you back what I think the key takeaways are, and then can you let me know if I got it right? I want to go back and tell our, we have a professional development that works on anti-racist curriculum and does professional development with other professors. So it's voluntary. I'm going to say, hey, great news. These researchers did this study and they actually found that what professors do in the classroom, when we add that to a predictive model, we actually get like 20% more of differences in Black student success rates. So that's the really exciting part, that what professors are doing in the classroom matters. So keep up this professional development. It's important. The bad news is that when they ran the model multiple times in different semesters, which faculty actions in the classroom mattered actually changed. So I probably wouldn't refer them to this study to figure out what actions they should be teaching in these professional developments. I'd say go to the CRT, go to the culturally relevant pedagogy literature to think about what actions you should be teaching. What we can say is what you do in the classroom matters, but this particular study isn't going to tell you exactly what that is.
And
Go ahead, Caitlin. Yeah.
I'll just add part of, we did it in a different presentation, but kind of coming to the conclusion, is it changing by semester or do we just not have enough power in data? So yes, I think the answer would be they have to run this analysis to know which pieces of the puzzle are right for your college. But yeah, I think your conclusions are on point.
Yeah, that was like the one, thank you. And that was the one piece that felt so disappointing to me as a watching you do the research, is like, I wanted some answers. I wanted some data-driven answers. And I kind of refused to believe that like, oh, it's just different every semester. Like, I think it's something about the power and the way we're running the study. Like, there has to be some regular practices across populations that on average is more predictive of Black student success, I think.
Yeah, yeah, I share that too. That's why we had so many points in this study where we were like, from a researcher's perspective, you're expecting to see like a group that sort of keeps getting supported, like a group of activities or approaches or what. And just to see it change so much from semester to semester was a surprise, we'll say. But yeah, almost a little frustrating, like, I want something else, but I didn't get it. Okay.
One suggestion we got at the conference was looking at course modality within, I think when we did the faculty impact survey. So I thought that, I was like, I don't know how we didn't think of that, but breaking out by what they're doing maybe physically in the classroom versus in an online space might tell us something as well, but we just haven't gotten there yet.
Just wanted to make sure our presenter saw the question from Hannah in the chat.
Yeah, I'll read it out real quick. What is next for Norco? What's your priority for the next study? So many factors contribute to course outcomes. Have you considered running this with other measures that relate to course outcomes like student sense of belonging?
So that a perfect segue. I want this to be, this is a living model. I feel like I would love it if we had sort of like this open source approach to this study and people would say, hey, I'm going to try it with this and let's see what happens. And as we keep going and accumulating better and better insight as to what's happening, we can change this model. We can change the faculty impact survey to include other things. You are free to do this however you think would work best for your college. But hopefully over time, we stay in touch and we share those results and we find out and possibly, if we can, pull together these data so we can get, like I said, either a regional, it'd be great if we had even a state level, set of data to be able to come up with some responses about what works for our Black student success. So yeah, totally. I do think we should look at including more things and different things into this model to see if we can improve the predictive power.
And just to add, we are presenting this to our college community, different versions of it, kind of more of the takeaways. We do have plans to get some of the contextual side of it from faculty to know like those few things that came out just in the fall 23 administration, like help us understand what they mean. Plan to do it again in the fall. And I think by going and presenting it, hopefully we'll get a better response rate because people know what it is. We were told last time it went to people's clutter, not great. So we do have plans to continue doing this, at least at Norco. And actually, the more immediate sense, hopefully we're a 3-college district. So hopefully we'll be able to expand this work in the fall to our whole district. Hopefully.
Yeah. Just one, I don't know if there's more questions. Are there more questions? I didn't check the chat.
Not in the chat.
Okay. One of the things I'll just share with you that I shared actually at the RP conference when we got the award was that one of the practices that I had to learn, and I just will share with you, that actually helped us get this study underway and then completed, is to take back some of your calendar. Because if we obviously you've got to respond to the needs of your college. But if all, take this right, if all we do is respond to the needs of our college, we don't lead the college in terms of research. So, take even 2 hours a week if you can, late on Friday where hopefully you don't have any meetings or, whatever, and take back some of that and start doing the work. If you're like us, we love this kind of stuff. We love doing the research work. Take back some of your calendar so that you can protect that and, you know, make those contributions in your area. So that's my little bit of advice, as I look in the future, which, probably isn't gonna always be at Norco College. Meaning, that does sound weird, doesn't it? I better rephrase that. I'm looking at retirement in about 7 months. So, yeah, but I have great people. Caitlin is pretty much, you know, spearheading this project now, and we have really good people that are supporting her, helping her move forward. So we really would love to partner with any of you if you're interested in doing that. And Cynthia, I'm really excited that you're going to possibly take this, or you're going to take this back to your college and see what kind of reception it gets. That's exciting.
Thanks so much for joining us.